All right, man. The unspoken tool to always be decisive in your marriage. Being decisive is a healthy masculine trait. You gotta get that, okay? The ability to make decisions fast in your marriage without hesitating is very attractive to the feminine, okay? It doesn't mean that you are controlling her or that you're not allowing her to change the decisions that you make. It's more rather than that you are able to be on your feet, to come to a decision without doubting yourself as a man, as a father, as a husband. This will also have you gain a great deal of respect from your wife. Like, my wife changes my decisions about 50% of the time, even if she asks for it, like if she asks me to make decisions, right? And that's okay. But the fact is that I was decisive and I came to the conclusion without overthinking, and I demonstrated to her that I am solid, right? This drives her to be more attracted to me, allows her the freedom to come into partnership and have a say, and most importantly, makes her feel taken care of, okay? And gives her this sense of leadership that she needs from me as a masculine figure in the marriage, okay? So the tool that John and I are about to share with you will transform your life, not only your marriage, but also generally in all areas of your life. You will see a shift happening when you start to implement this, okay? When you learn, implement, and actually master this tool, you will never have to overthink how to make decisions and what decision you should be making in general. Like, the level of leadership this will bring into your marriage is out of this world. And like, I get it. I get it. It sounds too good to be true. And that's fine. We only have thousands of testimonials to prove that it is true. But hey, you know what? Let's not waste time, okay? Without further ado, let's get right into it, okay? So there are 4 levels of priority to your actions that will help you make decisions. This means that there are 4 components to this tool, and each of them represents a priority level in how you evaluate decisions quickly to come to a conclusion or to be able to make that decision, okay? So we're going to go through all 4 of them, teach you all 4 of them, what they are, how to implement them, and obviously how they are connected, because you need to understand the why behind each and the logic, okay? And at the end of it, we'll be giving you 5 free powerful tools to help you start implementing this in your life and marriage, okay? So make sure you stick around. Okay, let's look at this. Let me just look at my computer. All right. Priority number 1, okay? Your terms. Terms are the total sum of your masculine identity, okay? These are your non-negotiables that you have full control over. In fact, terms are the only thing in your life that you have full control over, okay? You might think that you're in control of other stuff, but in reality, these are the only things that you truly have control over. And when I say control, what I mean by that is you have the ability to dictate how it goes. There's no external influence, there's no circumstance, nothing. You have full control in how it goes, right? Terms are the only thing that give you that. Now, if you're not living your life according to your terms, what's happening is you're compromising yourself as a man, okay? You are also lying to your wife because you're not being true to who you really are. And it's most likely because you want to please her, right? Now, this means that you are pretending to be somebody else, which doesn't go well, okay? It also creates an unsafe environment for your wife because she doesn't know what the boundaries are within which she can manage the relationship, right? You knowing your terms and being clear what they are and demonstrating it through your actions allow your wife to know what the boundary is within which she can manage the relationship, okay? Now, a man should have at least 1, but no more than 4 terms. If you're going beyond 4 terms, you are now in the realm of controlling beyond your terms. You're making bullshit up. You're trying to make things terms that are not, okay? On average, most men have 2 to 3 terms. That's what we found, okay? I have 2 terms as a man myself, Okay. I am a man that takes care of his family's safety and security, financially, emotionally, and physically. That's my first term. And my second term is I am a man that makes a difference in other men's lives. Okay. TBH is a big part of that. Okay. So terms are your number one priority when making decisions. Okay. Any decision you make, you ask yourself the following question. First, if I do this or say this, will I compromise my term? Right? If the answer is yes, you do not do it because the decision would be compromising, right? You do not do it. Decision made right away. If the answer is no, in that you wouldn't be compromising yourself, then you go to priority number 2 and evaluate that, which we're going to talk about in a second. Okay? Now, side caveat. Well, not really side. It is critical. You also need to understand that priority number 1 is commitment based. Okay? So it doesn't matter how you feel. Your aim is to never compromise your term. It doesn't matter if you feel like doing it, if you don't feel like doing it. It doesn't matter what your feelings dictate. Priority number 1 is commitment based. You do it no matter what because it's who you are as a man. Okay? All right. We're going to go into now priority number 2. Let me just bring that up here on the screen.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just to anchor back to a point you had made in the just kind of setting the context for this section around, how your wife changes 50% of your decisions, right? So being decisive is a masculine trait, and your wife often changes, even though you've made the decision, your wife often changes that decision. We are not speaking about that in relation to terms. In relation to terms, your wife will not change your decision if it is term related, right? And I think it's important for men to get that. And as Andre said, if you are changing your mind, if you're allowing somebody else, in this case your wife, it could be somebody at work, it could be, some friend you have in the community, that's taking you away from being the person you know yourself to be, well, then you are compromising yourself. So I just wanted to segregate or separate those two components of, hey, being decisive as a masculine trait is different to, hey, knowing and living by your terms.
Yeah. No, that was a good call because we'll give examples as we go along, so this becomes all clear. Right now, just focus on understanding each of the priorities, and then we're going to kind of gel it together. In fact, we're going to go through some examples
let's just give a couple as we go along, because okay. I know you've shared your terms. So let's some other terms that men might have would be, hey, they'll have terms around their health, right? They'll have terms around religion, right? I'm a man who believes in God, as an example, right? And he will be anchored in that. Another term would be, I'm a world-class father. And for the individual, and this is the thing about terms as well, it's not that somebody else, I don't need to be able to define what Andre's term means to him. Andre needs to be able to define what Andre's term means to him.
Very personal.
And we could both have the same term. We could both have a term around being world-class fathers, but who it is for us and what it's about is very different.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about creating a term that aligns or correlates with somebody else's term. It's about, hey, like when you step back, what are you about? Who are you? Who are you as a man? Who are you as a father? Who are you as a husband? So it's to get grounded in your own definition. And as I said, know 100% what that is for you. And the clearer you are in relation to your terms, the easier it is to navigate your way through life.
Yeah, and this brings up something else, which is, you are in full control of your terms. Your terms do not depend on anybody else. And your terms are already there. We're not creating terms. When we talk about be a man of your terms, right? Be committed to your terms and don't compromise them. We're not creating terms. Terms are already there. You are who you are. It's more about discovering what your terms are so that then you can start living according to it at a conscious level. Okay? And you probably get that, like goosebumps you get goosebumps in the back of your neck, right? And terms are only about what you can control. I'll give you an example. This comes up a lot in our membership. I am a man who's loyal versus I am a man who's in a marriage that's loyal. The first one's a term, the second one is not. Because being in a marriage that's loyal requires your wife to be loyal too. You don't have control over that. You can influence it, but you don't have control. But I am a man who's loyal, you can control that. Even if your wife is not loyal, you can still be a man who's loyal, right? Just to give an example. Okay, let's go to priority number 2, okay? Cooperate with her efforts to manage the relationship, okay? This is the second priority. Now, this refers to the relationship between you and your wife, okay? We call this the third entity, okay? Because your marriage is not just about you and your wife, okay? It's not just your wife and you. It's about the third entity as well, which is the relationship between you and your wife and the actions that each of you take to serve it, to serve the relationship, okay? One of the biggest roles your wife has and your wife can bring to your marriage, if you allow her, and you should, is the management of the relationship, okay? So while you lead your family, she manages the relationship between you and her, right? That's her contribution. And this has to do with anything and everything that is related to the relationship between you and her. So it doesn't involve the relationship with the kids or anybody else. This is strictly the relationship between you and your wife and what that compromises, okay? And cooperating with her efforts to manage the relationship means that you are giving her the freedom and space to let her manage that, okay? It is one of the biggest services you can give to your wife.
Yeah, so freedom, space, and trust, right?
Yeah.
Trust that, hey, this is your area of expertise, managing the relationship. And I'm solid in who I am, and I don't need to get in the way of your management of the relationship in any area that you're better than me at. But confidence often gets in the way of allowing a man to do that, right? So, and we're going to touch on that again later.
And we suck at relationship management, right? The masculine is not naturally wired to be able to do that. We suck at it. We try to do it because we're hurt, we're emotional, we're codependent, whatever the reasons are, but we're not good at it. Women's instinctual skill set to manage relationship is way more sophisticated than us. Okay,
and it's ingrained in them so young.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of laughing because even last night I went to the park with our daughter, and okay, we're going to the park. We're going to go play in the swings and stuff. And on the way there, she's like, "Oh yeah, I just want to make a new friend." It's like, "Oh, I'm actually going to the park to meet people."
Yeah.
Right. Versus a masculine or male mindset would be, okay, I'm going to go on the swings. I'm going to, go on the slide. But this is a 4-year-old girl who sees that as an opportunity of building relationships. That's what we do. This is a 4-year-old, right? So it's ingrained so early.
But even if you go back to childhood of a typical child's development, right? Like girls play with Barbie dolls and Barbie house, have tea in the Barbie house, whereas, boys, trucks and squirt guns and all kinds of different stuff, right? So even the upbringing, even from early childhood, this is all wired in. Now, this is priority number 2, because compromising yourself as a man for the relationship is not worth it, okay? It will have you be lost. It will take away respect from your wife, and it will be super unattractive and come across as needy and insecure, okay? So if your answer in the decision-making process regarding priority number 1 was no, it doesn't compromise my term, then you get down to this second priority, right? And the question is, okay, is my wife managing the relationship around this decision? And do I impact the relationship between my wife and I if I make this decision? right? So you've already checked in with priority number one, doesn't compromise the term. You went to the second one, and now you're checking in on that. Okay. Now, also understand that priority number two is, again, commitment based. Okay. It doesn't matter how you feel. Your aim is to always cooperate with her efforts to manage the relationship unless your terms are compromised in the process. Then you don't. Now, ideally, you would want to be a man who can make both A and B happen, right? Where you cooperate with her efforts to manage the relationship, but you do it in a way where it doesn't compromise your term. That's what you want to look for. If you cannot do that, then terms take priority. Okay?
Yeah, and just give a couple of examples of that. So, prior to this call, if you got 2 minutes before we start, if you got a call from your wife saying, hey honey, I want to chat. Right? I just want to connect. I didn't really get to talk to you this morning before you left the house. Like I just want to connect with you. Okay, so she's reaching out because she recognizes that in the relationship, hey, we just didn't have that connection this morning. It was busy getting the kids or whatever, and that the schedules didn't overlap. So you can assess it from the point of view of, okay, well, I have this commitment to my term of, okay, I'm going to make a difference in men's lives, right? And I have a commitment to be on this live at a certain time. So it's not urgent in relation to the relationship. It is urgent with respect to delivering on the term. Now, if your wife called up and said, hey, one of the kids just got knocked down, you're probably not doing the YouTube live today, right? Because that's higher ranked than your term around, providing, making a difference in men's lives. Right. So in the first case, she's identified, hey, that we didn't have that connection this morning, or there's something missing for her.
Yeah.
And in the second scenario, it was a case of, okay, well, my terms, I'm gonna protect my family. One of my kids just got knocked down. Right. So another example is you may want to go out with her on a Friday night. Right. What is today? Thursday. Okay. So, you're thinking about, tomorrow night, haven't been to the movies in a while. I saw a couple of new shows coming out. Okay, honey, you know what? I'm gonna get tickets. We're going to the movies tomorrow night. And then tomorrow night rolls around and she recognizes, okay, you know what? We actually haven't sat on the couch together in a long time. And on one hand, you're like, but I already got tickets. Like, it cost me $50. Are we just gonna waste them? Right? But her management of the relationship is, hey, honey, what we actually need tonight is to just sit inside on the couch, which is way more intimate than sitting inside in a movie theater.
Yeah. So you can even level it up, like, sex and intimacy. I mean, those are part of management of the relationship too, right? You need to get on a phone call, let's say this live, or let's go with my example, right? I'm a man that makes a difference in other men's lives. So, my wife wants to have sex, but I have a call, with a man within 5 minutes who needs my help in their marriage.
That's enough time. That's enough time to get it done.
For you, maybe. Right? Okay, let's do 1 minute, right? She wants to have a quickie, but I'm already giving my word to something that I'm committed to. That's part of who I am as a man. So I'm not going to compromise that. Okay. And we'll go through more examples. Now let's go to number 3. Priority number 3 is your purpose. Okay. All right. So this is also commitment based. The decisions around this. Okay. It doesn't matter how you feel. Your aim is to always take action around your purpose, unless your terms are compromised or you need to cooperate with her efforts to manage the relationship. Okay? A man needs purpose outside of his family to live a purposeful life. He cannot and should not rely on his family to be the sole purpose, okay? Because your family is more your legacy, Okay, but what we find is a lot of men rely on that as their purpose as well. Okay, now purpose must be actioned on outside of the family, because that gives you control. Okay, you can count on that. It's predictable. If you have a purpose outside of your family, then doesn't matter whether your family unit is working at the moment or not. You'll be able to rely on that. But if your sole purpose is your family, then as soon as something's going wrong, let's say you're trying to rebuild your marriage or relationship with your kids is not working, then that purpose is taken away from you now. It's dependent on other people for you to be able to do the work around your purpose. And purpose is super critical. Okay? And why is it super critical? I mean, let's speak to that a little bit, because there's a lot of talk about purpose, but what does that actually mean? Well, purpose is being able to make a difference in other people's lives. Ideally, it's something that you have a passion around, okay? And it raises self-confidence, it raises self-worth, it makes you more attractive to your wife and in general, right? And it has you be in action. Now, being purposeful is what's key here, okay? Not to have the perfect purpose. We have men come into TBH all the time. They're trying to work on their purpose, and they're not taking action on it because they're looking for some amazing big purpose to start executing on. You don't need to do that, okay? Like, TBH is a huge purpose for me and John, but it didn't start that way. We were just working with men on a volunteer basis. We wanted to make a difference, and we put in some time, effort in that. Since then, over the last 10 years, this has significantly evolved, but it doesn't have to be big. You don't have to end world hunger, right? You don't have to do that. It can be something small. The key is to start taking purposeful action. The only way to figure out whether your purpose is good or not is if you're being purposeful around it, which means that you're taking actions around it. Thinking about purpose and trying to figure out if that's the right one, it's not going to work. It's not going to have you figure out whether it's a good one or not, or it's worthy of pursuit. Okay? But taking the actions around them to manifesting that purpose will actually have you figure out, okay, is this the one that I'm passionate about? And I've changed purposes over the course of my life. Okay? But you're engaged, you're in motion, and you're making a difference in other people's lives. Okay? Now, there's one caveat around this. And I'm a example of that. Sometimes terms and purpose can be overlapping or interrelated. Okay? I am a man that makes a difference in other men's lives is one of my terms. And then we have TBH purpose, right? The Bulletproof Husband purpose. To empower husbands to be the best version of themselves so that no child has to experience the pain of a broken home. There's a lot of overlap there, okay? Not everything, but there is overlap. So if you are seeing that your purpose and your terms have overlap, you have to be clear what is the overlap, and then make that priority number one, treat it as your term, and then look at the other parts that are not overlapping, and then you want to treat that as priority number 3, which is your purpose, okay? Now, John can give you a couple more examples. He's the example stuff.
Yeah, example generator. No, but I go back to even though we're religion neutral, religion is a great one where the term can be, hey, I'm a man that lives a Christian life, or lives pick whatever religion you want to put in there, right? Like he knows himself as a man who lives a Christian life, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly, a man of faith, and you can put in whatever that is for you. So that can be his term, but his purpose work can be around spreading that word, right? Being out there in the community and actually, promoting and exposing people to that faith. As an example, where something can be a term, and then it can also be purpose work on the other side. Purpose work can also be, you mentioned world hunger, right? Going to a food kitchen once a week or once a month, making a difference, actually just intentionally being there to make a difference in other men's lives or other people's lives, right? And the thing we see in TBH around purpose, and you touched on it with respect to, and I always relate it back to, and it's self-sufficiency is the foundation of it. But when a man's relationship with his wife is in the ditch, his next access point to try and boost his confidence, he'll start leaning on his kids, depending on their age.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden he wants to spend all this time with the kids. And some of it is to get grounded. Some of it is, hey, that emotional connection with them. Oh, I'm failing my relationship with my marriage. So maybe I can boost my own confidence and actually gain some wins by, okay, I'm going to have a great relationship with my kids. Right. And that kind of, they gravitate towards, okay, I'm going to start coaching the baseball team, which is all great once it's coming from the right place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can be purposeful around coaching your local baseball team, which your kids may or may not be on. But if they are on it, you got to check in with yourself and go, hey, am I doing this from the place of contribution, or am I actually doing this from the place of, hey, I need to have some wins in my life because I'm drowning.
Well, I mean, it can be both, right? But yeah. The key thing is not to neglect the first two priorities, right? So if you're coaching a baseball team, but you're not cooperating with her efforts to manage the relationship, and or you're compromising your terms, you are now acting out of order, and you're clearly not in tune with how to make decisions in your life, right? Because the purpose of this priorities is to go through each one of them to have you come to a decision. Now, like in the first example, if your terms are not compromised, or your terms are compromised, if you were to take an action, right, and your terms will be compromised, the decision's made. You're not going to compromise your term, right? But sometimes you've got to go through all four of the priorities to realize what the decision is, okay? And so the more you understand each of these components, the faster you'll be able to do that. And with respect to the example that John gave around the baseball team, well, you got to check in, right? If you're now putting in 4 days out of 7 coaching a baseball team, but your wife is giving you clear management signals around the relationship and you're ignoring them, or you're not showing up to work, or you're super tired and you're not focusing at work, which has you bring the bacon home and actually put food on the table, there's terms being compromised. There's lack of cooperation, right? So these are examples of how this works. So purpose is number 3 in the priority list. Terms, number 1, cooperation with her efforts to manage the relationship, number 2, and then purpose, number 3. And now we're going to go into number 4. Okay? Now, number 4, your wants and desires and her wants and desires. This is priority number 4. This is the last priority. Okay? Now, I'm giving you some relief. Unlike the previous 3, this is not commitment-based. Okay? It is purely feelings-based. Okay? What this means is that your decision is not based on your word or your commitment to it, but purely and only on how you feel. If you feel like doing it, great, do it. If you don't feel like doing it, great, don't do it. Okay? If you have wants and desires, or your wife has wants and desires, and she's asking you to make a decision around them, you can make decisions purely on your feelings at that moment in priority number 4, assuming you've cleared the other 3. Okay? Now, why is this? Well, because you made sure that priority 1 to 3 is taken care of. So at this point, you can do whatever you want. You can cater to your feelings all you want, and it won't be a problem. And this, again, this doesn't only just go what you feel like doing, it's also what your wife feels like doing. Oh, babe, can you take me to the shopping mall? I want to go shopping, right? And you go through, okay, if I take her shopping, will it compromise the term? Okay, no. All right. Okay, let's go to number 2. If my wife is asking me to take her shopping, is that her managing the relationship? No, it's not. It has nothing to do with the relationship between you and her. Okay. Have I done everything around my purpose to live a purposeful life? Will it compromise my purpose if I go? Okay, no. All right. Number 4, it is the last one. It's a want and a desire. So my wife wants and desires for me to take her to the shopping mall to go shopping, right? Now, if you feel like it, take her. If you don't feel like it, don't take her. Give her the car. You do what you feel like in priority number 4. And you have the confidence to do that because you've taken care of 1, 2, 3, which are commitment based. Those are not feelings based, right? It doesn't matter how you feel. 1, 2, 3, you do because you're committed to it. Okay. And then number 4 is purely feelings based. Do whatever you want. And hopefully John will give you another.
Yeah. No, what I'm kind of, in that situation, right? In that want and desire example of going to the mall, like, okay, so the guy decides, okay, I'm going to take her. Like, got nothing else to do. I've gone through the first 3 priorities. Okay, she wants to walk around the mall. Yeah, let's just go do it. Right? Now we get to the mall and she sees a bag that's $1,000. Hey, honey, can I put this on the credit card? In that moment, it's back to the priority decision.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the reason I'm highlighting that is because there's this constant flow, opportunities for you to test yourself against. Okay, where am I at? Is this 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Okay, you box number 4 gets ticked. Okay, but then the situation changes, right? So you still have to go back to, okay, where am I at in relation to my terms? Has this anything to do with her management of our relationship? Right? What if she communicates, hey honey, like you haven't actually bought me anything nice for the last 2 years. Right? I've been bursting my ass with the kids, just went through COVID, or we just went through whatever we went through. I know you're out there providing, but you actually never showed me any love. Right? So how do you process that as a communication? How do you process that as that management of the relationship? Right? So it's this constant, as I said, this constant flow of, and this is why it's so important, because in every aspect of your day, there are opportunities to check in on these 4 priorities. And we highlighted it from the start. It's not just in your relationship with your wife. Right? How do your terms come into play when you're at work? How's your purpose impacted by work? Right, so it's to increase that awareness to it.
Let me actually drive this example, because I think the example you just gave kind of covers, like, we're bringing it all together, and it kind of covers a lot of the stuff, including making EMB happen, right? So, your wife wants to go to the mall to shop. You go through it. You realize it's a want and a desire. You decide to do it, so you go with her. In the mall, like in John's example, she sees $1,000 Burberry or Coach bag, and she wants to get it. And the pitch that she gives you is what John said. You haven't expressed love to me in terms of buying me stuff, and I know you work hard and all that, but I'm with the kids, and I would really like this bag. It's like, okay, now you go through the list again. Okay, you realize, if I spend $1,000 right now on the credit card to buy a bag, do I compromise my terms or do I not? If there are any terms around finances, which most people do. Okay. Let's say the answer is yes. You would compromise yourself. Okay. So you can get $1,000 bag, but does that mean you're not trying to make both happen? Whether it's cooperating with the relationship or whether it's a want and a desire, which is her bag, right? It's kind of a mix of two, right? Because she's communicating to you that she feels neglected, but she also has a want and a desire around this bag. So maybe $500 is good, and it doesn't compromise your terms. So you might not buy that $1,000 bag, but you might do something for a value of $500, maybe another bag, right? Or maybe another surprise. Okay, so that's an example of looking at each of these going down, and then how can I be the man that makes it all happen, knowing that if I cannot, here is what I'm going to stick to. These are my non-negotiables. Okay, really, really important. You start to learn this cycle and you start to base your decision making on this. You start to look at it, because a lot of your decisions are automated, right? Even the big ones, or even the ones that how should I say this? Everybody has bullets, insecurities. And oftentimes those insecurities are driving us to make decisions automatically that we don't want to make, or that we're not happy with respect to the decision we made, right? So if you're pleasing your wife, if you're in that situation that I just described, right? You're pleasing your wife, and she just told you, I don't feel taken care of and loved. Buy me this $1,000 Coach bag. And you're in the pleasing mode because you want to get her approval. You'll compromise your term for that. And you'll go ahead and do something that it's not who you are.
And you'll end up resenting her for it.
Yeah. And you're giving your balls away, right? See, it's okay if your wife gets pissed because you're not compromising your terms. It's okay. But she'll respect you. She'll get that, like, okay, this is non-negotiable. I've never told my wife my terms. Hopefully she won't watch this video because the curtains have fallen. But she doesn't need to know. I don't need to tell her. She knows. She knows because I am being I'm being the man that resembles those terms. So if you were to ask my wife about what my terms are, what represents me as Andre Gabori, she would be able to tell you, and it wouldn't be far off from what my terms are because I live my life according to that. Okay? Same thing for you. You never talk about your terms. You don't have to. You be your terms. And that's the foundation, right? Because that's the most important priority. So then you can start to master each of these priorities and start making your decisions consciously by taking them through this ladder. Step priority 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And you might stop at 2. You might stop at 1. Might stop at 3. You might have to take it all the way through. But now you know it's a want and a desire if you have to take it all the way through. Okay? Really, really, really cool.
Yeah, and it's critical. Yeah, as you said, in relation to be your terms rather than communicate your terms.
Yeah.
Right? Your wife will know your terms just by way of how you turn up, how you turn up as a husband, how you turn up as a man and communicate in the community, how you are as a father. And a lot of men think, hey, I'm going to tell her what my terms are. Hey, honey, that goes against my terms. My term is blah, blah, blah. And as soon as you do that, you're opening up the invitation for her to say, to test you against your own term.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you said you'd provide for and protect the family. I want this bag. Like, how is that not a term? You said your term is to provide for me. Right? So you actually end up eroding trust by communicating verbally what your terms are, rather than actually being your terms with respect to how you show up in life.
Yeah, thank you for emphasizing that. Especially for newer men who are just starting to try to rebuild their marriage, right? One of the things that you go to is you want to talk about the relationship all the time. You think that's going to solve things. And even when you're starting to go deeper and get some of these tools, the urge can still be there to want to talk about it. And it's all because you want to get a pat on the back. Oh yeah, babe, you're doing good. Keep doing what you're doing. She's never going to give you that, right? Not at that stage, because she's hurt, she's checked out, and it's the last thing that she's looking for, or that she would want to do is boost your ego. All right?
And I really want to emphasize the fact that when men join TBH, very, very, very few, if any, are clear on what their terms are. They haven't come across it. It's not part of a conversation they've had previously.
Very foreign.
So these 4 points with respect to, hey, this is how you make your decisions, it's alien to them, right? and I'm highlighting that for men to recognize, okay, it's not about it being perfect straight out the gap. It's not about, oh, I'm going to know my turns. I'm always going to get it right in relation to my turns. I'm always going to get it right in relation to her management of the relationship. I'm always going to be on par when it comes to my purpose. And yeah, I'll always have the flexibility, and I'll always nail it when it comes to, my wants or her wants and desires. But it's about recognizing, okay, this is another muscle that needs to be trained. You're fundamentally changing the way you've been making your decisions, moving away in a lot of cases from, hey, I'm basing my decisions on my emotions, which is where a lot of men are when they join TBH, versus I'm making my decisions based on my commitments 75% of the time. That's the hierarchy. And then it goes into, okay, my wants and desires. Right? So it is, we're increasing your awareness, or giving you the access point to start looking at how you're making your decisions currently, and moving into this structure of, okay, these are my 4 priorities. This is how I'm making my decisions. And in that, you're going to be learning, then you're going to mess up sometimes, and you're going to learn from that. Okay.
But even like, yeah, most men don't even know what terms are, or they never come across. But I think that's kind of true for all the other items. Mm-hmm. I mean, probably men are the most familiar around, purpose, or, well, obviously wants and desires, but not as its own category. But cooperate with her efforts to manage the relationship. Like, what is that? What does that mean, right? Mm-hmm. And even purpose, for a lot of men, it's foreign. It's just a word that's being thrown out there, but most men don't even really know what that actually means, or how can I tangibly take that and actually implement it in my life, or what's the difference between being purpose and purposeful. And then add on top, wants and desires as a category. Shouldn't I be doing that all the time? No, it's actually the last thing you should be doing. So, hey, listen, we want to help you, right? And there's a lot of stuff that we have available for free that you can leverage to deepen this. Okay, so we have the Bulletproof Husband book, which you can get for free. You do have to pay for shipping, small cost just to cover shipping, but the book itself is free, and it's $30 on Amazon, retails for $30. It's a 330-page hard copy book. Okay, so I'm not going to send you some 50-page e-document or something like that. No, we're going to actually ship it to you hard copy. And it comes with 3 bonus trainings. Okay, Merit Stabilizer Blueprint, Stages Framework, and Domains Framework. And it also comes with a free template that you can use, Husband 7 Pillars. Okay, so if you want this book with all the free bonus stuff that comes with it, put book in the comments, and then John or I will shoot you the link. Oh, and John, make sure you know that it's a new link, right? Because we've added in the bonuses. We didn't have that before, so it is a new link. All right. With that said, let's keep moving on. Okay. Our next topic, how to feel amazing in your marriage. So when your marriage is on the rocks, right, and you are trying to rebuild it, how you feel matters, because it impacts your way of being and your performance, right? And while we encourage men to pull their bullets, in other words, get rid of their insecurities so that their unwanted behaviors are gone forever, which does happen when you pull your bullets, we also recognize that pulling your bullets and mastering them takes time, right? We get that you need tools in your arsenal to be able to manage your emotions, at least in the short term, right? And there are a few things that you can do immediately to kind of alter how you're feeling in your marriage. And using the tools we are about to describe are so critical so that you remain on top of your game, right? Especially if your marriage is on the rocks, you're trying to rebuild it, your wife is going to test you a lot, right? Otherwise, what ends up happening is that you take guidance and counsel from your emotions. You're unable to have higher willpower, and it will damage your efforts to rebuild the relationship. It will have you fall back into behaviors that you don't want there in the first place. Okay, and um, and I'm emphasizing the short-term stuff here. Your long-term goal is to pull your bullets, is to get rid of your insecurities. Because when you do that, it biologically alters your wiring. So the things that you were doing automatically, you will no longer have the urge or the threat to do. Survival behaviors like, over-explaining, defending, yelling, snooping, addictions, alcohol, drugs, escape mechanisms, all of these things that most men fall into, unwanted behaviors, yelling, right? They go away when you deal with the underlying root cause, which are your bullets. But pulling your bullets is building a muscle. It takes time, just like when you go to the gym, right? You pump your biceps and you go look in the mirror first day, nothing's going to be changed. But you do that, you don't look at your bicep for 30 days and then you go look at it, you'll see a difference. Same thing with bullet pulling. So in the meanwhile, while a man's mastering bullet pulling, he needs to focus on two things that I want to talk about. Okay? And they'll be in a way a little bit foreign to you. Or you've heard about them, but it'll be a little bit out of the perspective we're providing will be a little bit different. Okay. So first one, let me just bring it up here. Manufacturing context. Okay. Now, what is context? In the perspective we're speaking to, context is your reality. Okay. So by default, our go-to contexts are negative because of our evolution, right? Like back in the caveman times, we needed to survive. And if we weren't aware of our surroundings, we would not have, right? So this drove into us this need to always be on alert, which instilled various negative automatic contexts, or now take that over thousands of years of evolution, right? So the threat has changed in the modern world, but it still works the same way. You may not be threatened by the saber-toothed tiger. You may be threatened by somebody calling you stupid or somebody making you feel weak or whatever that may be, right? But there's a default context that comes with it. And when your default context doesn't serve you and it's negative, right? The emotions and the feelings that it drives will also be that negative. Okay? Now, you can master creating positive context that actually serve you and which allow you to see things from a different angle. Okay? And when you can manufacture your own context, right? Because you're in charge of whether the glass is half full or half empty. Right? Hope you see what I did there. Right? Glass is half full or half empty is a context. I'm looking at the exact same thing. It's a glass that's half full or half empty. The question is, which context are you holding that will have you determine that, right? Which context serves you better, the positive or the negative, right? So when you're able to, when I say manufacture, what I mean by that is think of contexts that are strong and work for you and have you alter your reality and how you see things in the moment. Because when you alter how you see things in the moment, your way of being changes in the moment, instantly. Okay? That is super powerful. Like you're talking to your wife and she's taking you down a rabbit hole. And then you think of a context that serves you, that you know is strong. And we'll give examples of context in a second. And you think of that, and it puts you right away back into the way of being that you know works to be with your wife in that moment. You start getting out of the rabbit hole. You start to know exactly what to do. Okay?
Just come back to your
you do
your
the
glass.
example as well after. Because I had an example, but you're going to probably say something similar. So go.
No, I'm just going to go back to the glass half full and half empty. And for the engineers out there, the glass is twice as big as it needs to be. So, but yeah, in relation to context, right? It's situations happen in life, right? And the context allows you to alter how you, not only how you view those situations, but also how you view yourself within those situations. But I've shared multiple contexts, and I'll share some across my life. So, if I got a deliverable that I need to get done, I need to, just stay on task. I might use a context like FedEx. Why? Because for me, FedEx represents something that gets delivered, right? That's just, okay, just get it done, get it delivered, right? And people might say, well, FedEx isn't that reliable, blah, blah, blah. That's not what we're talking about, right? You can have
what it represents for you.
Right, is what it represents. And that's the key thing for everyone to get anchored in. Okay, what's the context that serves me, right? You go home, you had a long day, you walk in the door, and the kids are just bouncing off the walls, right? So your default might be, I just want to get out of here. Like, yeah. I don't have the patience for this.
Oh my God, I had such a hard day now. I'm coming home, and I'm coming home to this.
Right, and you could switch a context like make it memorable, right? Make it fun.
Create memories, yeah.
Right, create memories. Like switch into, okay, how can I snap out of where I am so that I can bring a different kind of leadership to this situation? Because I said you can walk in and the kid's bouncing off the wall, and you just want to grab them by the head and keep bouncing their head off the wall, right? But that's not. I doubt that is a representation of the man you've always wanted to be. But in that moment, your context, by implementing a context, you can completely alter that situation. You can completely alter how it occurs for you and how you occur for yourself. You move away from, oh, I'm so exhausted after my day. Oh, my life sucks. Oh, all I want to do is sit on the couch and, have a beer or chill out or whatever it is. So you can be responsible for how you alter yourself in situations, and how those situations will alter for you because you've altered yourself, right? A couple of other scenarios. Yeah, context I've mentioned many times with respect to just in life. One of my contexts is Gladiator, right? Because that main character Maximus, like what he represents for me, just that character, as I said, yeah, like that's aligned with the man I've always wanted to be, right? So it's a default context I have in a positive way, and that get anchored in something meaningful for me. Other men have their grandfather as a context. Why? Because of what that man represented for him in his life. But so it's a super powerful tool, and as I said, it changes the perspective. It changes your perception of a situation, and it changes your perception of yourself within that situation. You're going to go do a presentation at work. Maybe like, oh, all nervous, the CEO is there, or 20 of my colleagues are there. But if you can, again, switch the context to, I know my shit, right? I'm not shit. I know my shit. And you go and deliver. Why? Because you've just altered this. You've altered yourself, and you've altered the situation.
Wow. Yeah. Let me give one. I guess I have to chime in with one of my own contexts as well. So Monday night we have our implementation call every Monday night. This is 3 hours, okay? And it's TBH members submitting questions, and somebody who's a day old in the program, somebody who's 4 years in the program, right? And anything in between. And I'm answering those questions. Well, I need to have a strong context, right? What if a question's asked where I don't know the answer? Or what if somebody's super pissed because they've come into the program thinking in 1 week they're going to rebuild their marriage, and after a week in the program, they're pissed because while everything is going by the book, they haven't done the work, they're losing it on the call. It happens, right? So how do I show up in those situations? And one of my contexts is Ashton Kutcher. Now, you probably know him as the actor, but he also runs a software company that develops software to stop traffickers, okay, who traffic kids, to stop them in doing that criminal activity, right? And I'm doing this for kids so that no kid has to experience the pain of a broken home. So every time I'm off on my game on that call, that's my go-to context. And when I think of that context, it puts me in the way of being that I know I need to be in order to navigate the situation. Okay? Just another example. Okay, let's go into number 2, okay, which is manufacturing confidence. Now, this is another short-term tool to be in control of how you feel. Is manufacturing is your own confidence, right? To be in control for a man, right? Because men act and then feel, right? And one of the things that happens oftentimes is that we as men, we rely on external people like our wife to have us feel a certain way, right? This goes for confidence as well. Many times, we derive our confidence from our wife, and it is not a reliable source. Why? Well, because her actions are based on her feelings, right? You act and then feel. The feminine feels and then acts, right? When her feelings change, her actions will change, which means her willingness to boost your confidence and be responsible for that can change, okay? That's not reliable for you. And in general, for the masculine, we're always looking for some level of certainty, something that we can rely upon, right? And that we cannot. So when you master manufacturing your own self-confidence, then you now have certainty to know that you can always rely on that. You can always feel confident without needing your wife for it. Okay? Super important. Now, what are things that you can do to actually implement this? One of them is called integrity checklist, right? This is where you have all these things that are a distraction in your life, projects that you have started, or things that you have started but you haven't finished, or things that you've always wanted to start but you never started them. These are laying down in your subconscious and are being a distraction to you. So the integrity checklist is a checklist of all of these things lined up, okay? And you taking action to cross off, to actually complete some of those things that you've started but you haven't finished, or haven't even started, but it's been there for a long time. Your wife asked you to paint the deck, right? Or and you haven't done it, right? Or you started this writing this small book that you want to do for children, but you never finished it. You've been promising your kids to go, XYZ place, and you haven't done it. These all pile up and become distractions. When you create your integrity checklist and you start crossing them off because you're completing them, depending on the size of the item on that list, it will give you an immediate confidence boost, anything from 20 minutes to 2 months. Okay? 20 minutes to 2 months. If you haven't done your accounting for your business for 7 years, okay, and you get that taken care of, you're going to have a boost of about 2 months of confidence just from that, every time you think of that, and the peace of mind that you've done that, right? You going out and buying the paint for the deck to paint, that might give you a 20-minute to 2-hour confidence boost knowing that that's done, and anything in between. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, like in relation to the deck, it's not just that his wife asked her, it's the fact that he committed to doing it, right? It's, hey, I told her I'd take care of it and I haven't taken care of it. And irrespective of whether she's asking him about it or not, he knows for himself. And that's why it's often We know the stuff that we're flaking out on in life.
Yep.
Right? It's not about other people highlighting it. You know, every time you stand in front of the mirror, whether you've delivered for yourself today or not, whether you've stayed in integrity with who you are or not. And yeah, the integrity checklist, as I said, irrespective of whether his wife is nagging him around about the deck, if he said, hey, yeah, I'll take care of it, and that was 6 months ago, and another season has passed and the deck's not taken care of, ignoring the impact of the relationship, there's also a huge impact to him on his own reliability for his own word to people, to himself. Right? And that's what we often have to live with. It's not about disappointing other people. It's about disappointing ourselves and losing that trust in what we're actually about and what we represent. So yeah, and that in itself will erode your confidence. Right? When you're not reliable around your word, it's a killer of confidence.
Oh, yeah.
Because you start to know yourself as someone that's not reliable. And other people will. But as I said, fundamentally, you'll know that about yourself. You'll know, oh, it's full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, we're not expecting you to know all this stuff off the bat just from this, right? We get it. You may need help. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to give you a 45-minute training that has a call at the end. So at the end of the training, you get a link to book a call with one of our coaches. Okay. I'm not boasting here, but the general feedback is that 1 hour with one of our coaches is more valuable than 2 years of therapy. Okay. So what do you have to lose, right? Like if you want to understand these concepts, get clear on the integrity checklist, manufacturing your confidence, mastering and manufacturing your context, right? If you need help with this stuff, take advantage of this, right? Watch the 45-minute training. It will build deeper around the terms, the management of the relationship, and there's a link to have a free 1 hour call with a coach that's rock solid, understands where you are at, and can help you with these concepts, okay? If you want this, put call in the comments, and John or I will shoot you the link. Kidoki. I don't think that that's the right one here. There we go. Next topic. Yes. Stop. Here is why your wife constantly beats down your ego. This is an exciting one, and it's a cool angle on ego. Like, have you ever noticed that when your wife is on a rampage, you know, she's unstoppable in making you like feel hurt or bringing you down? You know, have you ever noticed how that when she's pissed or fed up, she beats your ego down, right, to the ground, and have you feel confused and shit about yourself, right? And then you try to defend or over-explain or react in some way, right? Why she's wrong or why it's not true. So first of all, this sucks, right? It sucks when it happens. Like I have been there many times and it doesn't feel good at all, right? But there are some critical things that you should and need to understand about this, right? Why it's happening. And like, what can you do about it to alter it? Okay. So first I want to talk about different ego levels. All right. So naturally, men's egos are at a higher level than women's egos. Okay. Yes, women can have high egos or men can have low egos. But naturally, you know, out of the box, the manufactured baby or human being is set up this way, where the feminine will have lower ego and the masculine will have higher ego. Okay. And it makes sense if you think about it, right? Like, again, going back to caveman times, if you go back thousands of years, when men were hunters and women were gatherers, right? Which requires more ego? Hunting, you know, the saber-toothed tiger, or gathering berries and nurturing kids in the village, right? Won't state the obvious, but yeah, right? So that's where it comes from. And while, you know, today those roles are not necessarily the case anymore, thousands of years of feminine masculine wiring doesn't just evaporate, right? So understanding that you and your wife have naturally different ego bases is very critical. Okay. Now, too much ego is a threat to your wife. Okay. So when your egos are far apart, because it's okay that your ego is higher than hers, that's not a problem. The problem becomes when they're really far apart. Okay. That becomes a threat. And as part of her management of the relationship, her objective is to equate your egos to similar levels, right? So that she's no longer threatened and that she can feel safe. Okay. Now, you should keep your ego a little bit higher than hers. That's healthy masculine, but you should be tuning in how far you are from her ego. If she had a bad day, right, at work, and you had an amazing day, and you come home and start raving about what a great day you had, while she's down in the gutter, huge discrepancy. It's not going to go well, just to give an example, right? But there are a few things that you can do about this, okay? And specifically, there's two options. There's two options you have. When you see your wife going at it, trying to bring your ego down, you can let her tear your ego down to her level, okay? So her ego's here, your ego's here. She's bashing you, she's bashing you, she's telling you stuff, she's trying to create an argument, she's telling you how awful you are, blah, 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 right? Ego comes down, same level or similar level. That's one option. But usually it doesn't go well, right? Men take it offensively, men react to it, it hurts. Doesn't work that well. Now, there is another option, okay, that you may want to look at. And this is what we recommend you do, which is you learn to raise her ego to your level. So when you notice that your wife's ego is low, you start to do things that has her ego get raised to your level. When she gives you signs and signals that her ego is down, she's trying to do things to bring yours down, you can counter it by building her up. By telling her things that will make her feel better, okay? And when you do that, you're raising her ego or getting it closer to yours, which means that your ego doesn't have to come down. You're not going to feel shit. You're not going to feel hurt. You're not going to have to sit through your wife saying all those things to you in her effort in wanting to balance this out. You'll bring hers up to your level. She's going to feel better about herself. She's going to see how well you communicate and how well you were able to do that. She's going to be thankful, and it's going to make her day better. And it's going to make your day better, I guarantee you, versus the alternative where she brings yours down. Make sense?
Yeah, and it's one of those scenarios where I just invite men to pay attention to, what's happening currently in your relationship, right? How do arguments go in your household? Okay, when your wife is at that place and she's coming at you because her safety and security is threatened. Her safety and security is threatened by her perception of your oversized ego. How do you respond to that? Do you respond in kind? So not only is she down, now you respond in kind and you take her down even further, right? So that the gap becomes even wider, which means the threat becomes even wider. And your ability to actually bring her up is very much dependent on your self-sufficiency, your confidence, a context that you're going to have to hold in that discussion, in that creating that safe space for her to actually vent at you, without you turning into an asshole just because of your emotions going, oh, I don't like how this feels, so I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna push back because I don't like how she's making me feel. But there's no power in that. There's power in, okay, I'm responsible for how I feel. Either I have emotional work to do, or hey, I have to go boost my confidence because I'm clearly getting, triggered in this situation. And if you're triggered in that situation, you're not really going to have the ability to build her up. You won't have the clear presence to actually contribute to her to bring her up.
Yeah. And as a man listening, like this is detailed in our book, right? So grab the free book. Comes with all the bonus trainings, free template. Put book in the comments. We'll ship it out to you. If you want to learn how to raise her ego and what that takes and what are some elements to actually get that going, leverage these free resources. Okay, put book in the comment, and we'll pop a link in there for you. Now we got one last topic to go through. Okay, and me like this one. Okay, do this to get her to listen to you. All right, so let me set the context around this for you, like because as men we hate to be in the wrong, right? Who likes to be in the wrong, right? We hate to be accused and called names, especially when the accusations are not true or incorrect, right? Like it sucks to be in that position. And oftentimes we end up reacting to our wife's accusations or name calling because it hurts, right? And when when we react to her, what happens? Just think about it for a second. Well, she continues to raise the bar, right? By reacting back to our reaction. Like it becomes an ongoing cycle with nothing ever accomplished and zero stuff communicated, right? Like you both leave the conversation unresolved and bitter. Now, on top of this, imagine your kids are hearing it in the background. It's now damaging and impacting your family unit, right? So we're going to talk about a simple strategy that will allow you to get rid of these recurring arguments and actually get closer to your wife hearing you, okay? Now, there are a couple of pieces to this that I want to talk about. So, first of all, understand what an argument is, okay? An argument requires two people, okay? Your wife losing her shit in front of you in the living room, yelling, screaming, calling you names, that's not an argument. It only becomes an argument when you engage, or when you engage in a way where it becomes reactive. So that example, when I was setting the context for this section, right, where I was talking about she reacts, or she says something, you react, and then she reacts, and then you react, and it becomes a vicious cycle, right? That's now an argument because two people are reacting, okay? But if you don't react and you allow her to express herself, that's not an argument, okay? And you'll start to understand a little bit why that's critical to understand, why it's important for this part, okay? Now, you want to understand next the intro of effective communication in this scenario, which is when your wife is speaking to you and expressing herself negatively or positively, right? Use this communication tool to be an effective husband, because the three critical components that we're going to talk about, right? When you use these, you essentially slowly disarming your wife from attacking you while creating the space to, have her express herself and alter her feelings. Because women feel and then act. For her feelings to change, she needs to understand her feelings. For her to understand her feelings, she needs to be able to express that to you. If you are reacting to that, she cannot express that. So one component, obviously, is you not reacting back by understanding what an argument is and not. And two, understanding that she needs to be able to express herself, okay? And then... Go ahead.
No, yeah, just to highlight, the expression of the emotion is a critical component for her in the feminine. All right. And where men often get stuck is, okay, I only want her expressing the good stuff, because when she expresses the bad stuff, I don't like how that makes me feel.
Yeah.
But picture it from her point of view. It's like, hey, I can only talk to Pat about the good stuff that's happening in my life. I can't talk about my frustrations. I can't talk about my frustrations relating to him. So where does she go? Right? So it's about you doing the work so that you can provide that safe space for her. And and I relate that back to life. I was like, hey, you got to be able to deal with the ups and downs of life. You got to be able to deal with your wife sharing her emotions, which are up and down also. You don't get to pick and choose. Oh, I like when she shares the good stuff because that makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. But her other stuff, like she's got to go somewhere else, and that's where the risk is. Okay, if you're not providing that emotional safety and security for her, where is she going? And so many men come face to face with this when they join TBH because they're like, oh yeah, I failed. Like I failed in providing that safe space for her. That's why she had that emotional affair, or that's why she just wants to hang out with her friends all the time now, and she doesn't want to be at home. So there is responsibility inside all of it. That's all.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And hopefully, the typical situation that men experience, when you start to compare what we're going to go through now, it'll be very easy to see the difference in the approach. Okay, so let's go right into it. So, acknowledgement, number one. Okay, I don't even want to number these, but they are in this order. Okay, so the ones that I'm going to go through, when you're communicating with your wife, you want to do it in the order that we're going through. Okay, so first one is acknowledgement. So one of the big misunderstandings, or one of the biggest challenges that men have with acknowledgement within communication, is they think if they acknowledge that you're agreeing with your wife. So when your wife is accusing you of something, or telling you did this and that wrong, or she says something that's not true, a lot of men are afraid to do the acknowledgement because they think, if I acknowledge her, I'm going to tell her that she's right, which is incorrect. Acknowledging does not mean you agree with what she's saying. Okay? Acknowledgement means that she gets, that you get where she's coming from, right? You see the sky as blue, she sees it as purple. Okay? You acknowledging your wife means that she gets, that you get, that she sees the sky as purple, even though you're seeing it as blue. Okay? You're not agreeing with her that the sky is purple, but you're communicating to her that you understand, regardless of your feelings or what you see, that she's seeing it that way, and that it's okay. It's okay. I get it. You see the sky as purple and not blue. That's okay. Right? So this automatically starts to disarm, because what do most men do when they're being accused or something is being told to them about them, right? Your wife is telling you, you lied to me. You weren't where you said you were. But you know it's not accurate. You were where you said you were. You're a man of your word. You didn't lie. But telling your wife that may not be the best method, trying to convince her, because she's convinced that you were not there. Okay? But acknowledging her, hey, listen, wow, this must be difficult. You being in this situation where you think I was somewhere where I wasn't. This must not be easy for you to be in that spot. I can only imagine how difficult that is for you, thinking that I lied to you, right? I just acknowledged where she's at. I didn't agree with her. I'm not saying that you're right. I just simply acknowledged. Okay? Now, step 2, open-ended questions. Okay? Open-ended questions allow you to ask questions that are not one-word answers. It's leaving the slate open. Okay? These are questions that are typically starting with why, how, and what. And the whole idea behind this is that it allows you to ask questions in a way that don't have an expected response. It leaves it open for her to respond any way she wants. And the true goal of this is to have her drive into her feelings, okay? and allow her to express them to you. So once you've acknowledged where she's at, not only you're not reacting, you're acknowledging her. Not only that you're acknowledging her, you are now asking more questions to give you more venom, to give you more of her feelings, to potentially call you more names, to potentially say things that typically would hurt somebody. You're now being curious. You're now letting her know, hey, not only that I get where you're at, but I want more. Give me more. Let it all out. Okay? It's going to be a shocker for your wife when you start doing this. She won't know what hit her, right? Like, because she's not used to that. She's used to you reacting, you saying things and having behaviors as a result of being triggered because of what she says or does.
Yeah, and you're opening her up, right? Open-ended questions opens her up, right? And the open-ended questions, the critical component of it is not that it's a premeditated question on your part to get a desired result or a desired answer. Like, that's the wrong mindset to have in relation to open-ended questions. It takes away the curiosity. If you're trying to lead someone to a certain answer, you're not operating from a place of curiosity. You're operating from a place of manipulation, right? And she'll feel that. So the open-ended questions, as I said, it allows you to open up what the experience really is like for her, and it allows her the safe space to express that, which is a fundamental feminine need that she has. And your ability to do it is, again, grounded back in where are you at in relation to your emotional self-sufficiency? Where are you at in relation to your confidence and your ability to actually be present? Some of that can be tied back into where are you at in respect to your integrity checklist, right? Because if there's something hanging out there that you just know you're not dealing with in life, you're bringing all of that distraction into these conversations, right? Or if you're like, oh, come on, the game starts in 2 minutes, like move it on, right? You're not being present. You're distracted by other things. So all of that feeds into your ability to be effective in this world of communication. But yeah, the curiosity, like, what was the experience really like for her? When that happened at work or whatever it was, or that person at work reminded her of something you had done in the past. I'd be curious about it. Actually get to know her.
Yeah. Building on the previous example, it's like, once she gets that you get like where she's coming from, just popping in a question. Wow, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel that you think I was lying about where I was? Like, what are the feelings that these are driving for you? Right? And I should start potentially, going at it. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know why you have to do that, but it's all coming out of her, right? You're releasing the pressure cooker inside of her, right? Okay. Now, third one is hypothesize and empathize. Okay. This is, once you've asked open-ended questions and she's starting to share, you're starting to get a sense of what her feelings are, right? You want to take a shot at actually reiterating how she's feeling once she's expressed it, right? Now, you may be correct, you may be not. If you didn't understand it correctly, how she's feeling, she'll correct you, right? Or if you did, she'll agree with you. Either way, you want to emphasize, right? You want to empathize back to her how those feelings must be like for her. So the same way that you kind of empathized when we were doing the acknowledgement part, right? You were empathizing around the situation where she's coming from, right? Now you're doing the same thing, but on the feeling side, right? So you acknowledge where she's at. You're letting her know that you get where she's at. You then ask open-ended questions. She starts to open up, share her feelings. And then you then start to reiterate those feelings. She may or may not correct you, but either ways, you empathize with her. You empathize those feelings back to her. Okay? So you do these three things ongoingly. And don't, like, depending on where you are with your wife, right? Like, don't expect you ask one open-ended questions and everything opens up, especially if you're on the brink of divorce, right? Or you're brink of separation, or she's totally checked out. You have to do this consistently, right? Consistently implementing this, because she's checked out. She doesn't trust you, too open to be that vulnerable. But the fact that you're disarming her and you're taking away her ammunition, you're communicating to her that, you know what, it's okay. It doesn't matter how much you hate me at the moment, how much you're coming at me. I am good. I will be here rock solid, and I can listen to you. I can hear you out. Not only that, I'm going to demonstrate to you that I get where you're at, and I'm going to demonstrate to you that I am curious to know more. I'm not shying away from this conversation. Oh, and by the way, after that, when I hypothesize and I empathize about your feelings, I'm going to show you that I actually really heard you. I wasn't just sitting here like a brick wall. I actually heard you. I was present. And I can tell back some of those feelings. So you do this consistently, you're taking away her ammunition to poke at you. Couple this with pulling your bullets, doing emotional work, you'll be rock solid in communication. Very powerful. Okay, so number 1, acknowledgement. Number 2, open-ended questions. And number 3, hypothesize and empathize the feelings that she shared throughout the open-ended questions.
Yeah, and we've said it already. You're training a muscle. You're training a muscle, no different to the 4 priorities. It's so new for so many men. Like, allow yourself the space to go, okay, I'm learning something new. Right? No different to driving a car. How you drive a car today, 20 years later after learning, looks very different. For those first times you went out on the road and you don't know whether you should look like 2 feet in front of the car, or 20 feet or 30 feet. All of that is part of the learning process. And recognize where you are in the journey, and allow yourself the space to, okay, I gotta learn it. I'm not gonna get it correct all the time. She's not gonna be receptive to it all the time. And that's not a reflection of whether it works or not. Right? That's just a reflection for where she's at in that moment, where the relationship is at, the damage that's already been done in the relationship. But allow yourself to commit to, okay, this is a skill that I'm going to master. And stay committed to that, irrespective of the short-term wins or losses. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Before I go to another video, that, like, if you found this live, I don't want to say entertaining, but you got value from this live, another older live that we had, I think you'll get really good value from as well, is 8 reasons why your wife wants to leave you, and getting the understanding and actually looking out for those signs and signals, right? And those reasonings behind that. Go to our YouTube channel and just search 8 reasons why your wife wants to leave you, and you'll find it. Very powerful. We had this last week, okay? And also, want to put this out there again, free coaching call available. If you need help with any of these concepts, put call in the comments. We're going to give you a link, which will lead to a 45-minute training, very valuable in-depth training. Every single man watched that training who saved their marriage through TBH. And there'll be a link at the end to book a call, free 1-hour call with one of our coaches. Okay? All right. That wraps it up for today. And we'll see you all next Thursday with the next awesome topic. All right. Take care, man.
Over and out.